Hey guys, what's up? In this video, we're going to get straight to the point of how to street perform in 2021 and how to have fun and make money while doing it. I'm going to run you through some of the most frequently asked questions that I get and go beyond regular videos by answering the real burning questions we all have, like how much we can expect to make, how do we get over stage fright, and what do we do in situations where we may run into trouble with the public. Hopefully, this video will benefit some of you and get some more music on the streets. Are you ready? Let's do it. So, what is busking? Busking is obviously street performing, everybody knows that, but real busking involves more than just grabbing a guitar and strumming it on the street. Real busking is making passersby feel something. You gotta move them with your music and grab their attention. It's putting on a performance that will leave an impression on them for the rest of their day, maybe even their week, maybe even their lives. Busking is about connecting with people. It's about forming crowds and having fun. Busking is cool. Part 1. Basic training. Guys, busking does not have to be complicated. There's too many people that overcomplicate and thus talk themselves out of going busking in the first place. At the end of the day, all that busking is you, your music, your passion, and the general public. So here are the basic things you should have prepared before hitting the streets for the very first time. Number 1. Practice. To begin, you're going to want to have prepared a number of songs that you are comfortable playing. To be clear, you don't need to be perfect at playing these. The aim is not perfection. It's to be able to look confident and in control when you are playing. If you clearly have no idea what you're doing or no idea of the song, that is going to show and people will be far less likely to gravitate towards you. Instead, try and have about a 70% and upwards knowledge of your songs. Don't waste time trying to get everything perfect. A good way to look at street performing in general, depending on your goals, is that it's a means of practicing with the chance to actually get paid to do it. Number 2. Song list. I would recommend that you have 10 songs minimum, not only to prevent the public getting bored from listening to the same songs over and over again. I mean, especially true if you're setting up near local shops. That's speaking from my own experience. It's not a good idea to play the same song over and over again. But having these 10 songs is going to prevent you also from getting bored and keep things interesting. This is, as I said, a suggestion from my personal experience, and I have seen other buskers perform the same 3 or 4 songs over and over again. But honestly, it just gets tiring and you're likely to just piss people off. In terms of your song choices, if you're just starting out and want to get some confidence on the street, play whatever you like. When I first started, I cut my teeth playing the likes of Breaking Benjamin, Green Day, and other rock bands that I listened to at the time on the streets. And I mean, while many in Ireland were not familiar with those groups, those that were really enjoyed it, and it was a great conversation starter with members of the public. I mean, if you're more experienced and your goal is to make money, you should stick to classics that people are going to know. The likes of ABBA, Oasis, and whatever is in the charts. I mean, you're going to learn in your own time what songs work and what songs don't. And this will also depend on your country and its culture. Don't be afraid to experiment, because sometimes the songs you least expect to work are the ones that work the most. Number 3. Location. Okay guys, you've picked your songs, you've practiced them to a decent level, you're ready to hit the streets. But where the hell do you set up your stuff and where do you start playing? I mean, this age-old question has been asked by many the busker and there are many different answers. If you're just starting out, you may feel a little bit shy, and thus I would recommend initially that maybe you stick to a quieter street where there are a few passersby and you have a chance to earn something, If you're really concerned though and still shy, then the best way to kill that feeling is to go to a local park or other public place and just play to yourself. Relax and have fun. The fact that you're playing in public alone will quickly eliminate any anxieties you may have, while also getting you used to playing in the open air and also in the cold temperatures. If, however, you're ready to rock, to make money, and to move people on the street with your music, then it's time to get tactical with your positioning. Location is, as they say, everything, and that is especially true for busking. There are a few different location classifications that I use to designate these spots for busking. You can have footfall spots, audience spots, and spontaneous spots. If you want to form large crowds and create a nice atmosphere, then you should try and stick to the footfall spots. These are areas with a large amount of footfall and pedestrians. Depending on your goals, you may want to choose a shop-filled pedestrian street in order to maximize the exposure of your music to the passersby. Other choices might be a popular tourist destination or some otherwise busy location. I've also found it a lot of fun and a lot of good money to set up near the so-called audience spots, or spots where you're guaranteed you'll have people that will hear and listen to your music. This generally manifests in the form of a bar terrace or other open-air restaurant-style location. Especially during the summer, these places can be an amazing way to practice your sets for actual gigs. And many times, if the quality of your stuff is good enough, the venues are going to ask you to do actual gigs there down the line. Do be careful not to repeat too much, however. And by repeat, I mean your songs, as this can really begin to irritate patrons who are outside just to socialize. Remember that these people are not here to listen to your music, and they're there just to socialize, so take care not to drown out their ability to converse. Once you get positive signals that they're into your music, you can begin to turn up and take control of the situation. More on that in the advanced section. Sometimes though, the most unlikely of locations work and can prove extremely profitable. These so-called spontaneous spots can be hit or miss. I mean, once you've gained confidence in your performing, the idea will be that you can create a show or a special moment anywhere. This happens rarely, but when it does, the moments can be magical. Don't be afraid to go with your gut, but always try and make informed guesses that are aligned with whatever your goals with the performance may be. Are you there to practice and chill, or are you there to make money? Don't be afraid to just take your guitar out when you go out with your friends to party in public too. You would be surprised at how easy it is to form crowds in summertime, in public parks. While you may not make a lot of money doing this, you will have lots of fun and will for sure make new fans and get offered beers by those fans. Finally, don't be afraid to experiment. Sometimes the most unlikely of spots can prove lucrative, so go with your gut and think outside the box with some locations. Number 4. Gear. The most important thing when deciding to go and street perform is the gear you're going to bring. At the bare minimum, you're going to need an acoustic instrument that will carry and be heard over the street ambience. Even with this alone, you're likely not to see much success, as it can be hard to be heard and you're going to lack some presence depending on where you are. I highly recommend investing in some street amplification to combat this problem. Now there are many options available to you if you decide to go down this route, some better than others. At the very least, depending on your specific type of performance, I would recommend that you buy an amp with 2 hybrid inputs, which will mean that you can put both XLR cables typically used with microphones, as well as jack cables typically used with guitars into your device. This is going to provide you with some versatility in what you can perform in the amp. And for example, this could be in the form of guitar and vocals, 2 guitars, etc. With that in mind, I highly recommend the Roland Cube Street series of amps, specifically the Street EX. The quality of this amp is so mind-blowingly good, with crystal clear audio, excellent onboard effects, and near indestructible build quality. It's really great, guys. I mean, it can be plugged into mains power, as well as having the capability to run off of 8A batteries, up to 12 hours. I mean, it's good. I've used it not only for busking, but also for actual gigs at venues where PAs may have been iffy, and it's never failed me. Really is the best money I've spent in a long time. But failing that, you may be interested to look into the Harley Benton range of amps, made by Thomann. These are relatively cheap and I've heard very good things about them, but I have no first-hand experience using them. Once you have your amp, if you're planning on singing, you're going to need a decent microphone and some XLR cables. Usually, I purchase all this from Thomann where they have excellent value deals. Don't go for something really expensive when it comes to mics, especially if you're going to be using it for busking. The idea is to get something cheap but reliable, as the chances are they're going to take a beating. My €25 Shure SM58 copy mic has worked perfectly the last 8 years, being put through literal hell as I took it backpacking across Europe and across various stages around the world. I mean, it's maybe not the best tool for the job, but it's never let me down. In addition to this, a pro tip is if you're using an acoustic guitar, spend money on a decent pickup. Otherwise, you're going to be left with an unpleasant and tinny tone depending on the preamp that comes with your guitar. I personally use the K&K Mini transducer pickup in my guitar, which amplifies the natural resonance of the wood and sounds very natural and full when played. Do your due diligence and do your research and try and get a good sound. Part 5. Self-presentation. The final part of basic training is to focus on your self-presentation. Presentation is quite important as a street performer in order to differentiate you from some of the other people on the street. Many people would disregard you as another beggar even if you're outfitted with an instrument, if you're not dressed appropriately. There's no need to go out and buy Gucci or Versace, but try and stick to smart casual for the best results. It's amazing how much difference this will make. Outside of your personal appearance, you might consider also making a small sign with your details on it, or designing some business cards to leave beside your guitar case, or whatever else you're using to collect your tips. That's it for basic training, guys. Let's move on to some of the more advanced stuff. Alright guys, now we're getting into the serious stuff. This is the advanced training, and in this section, we're going to assume you've gotten confident in street performing. You have your songs, you know what works, and you have had good moments along with all the bad ones. But suddenly, you're faced with something that maybe you didn't anticipate. You have large crowds, but you don't know how to retain them. That old man down the street is telling you to turn down, but you're already on half your volume, and if you turn down any more, nobody's going to hear your music. You got a lot of people who have told you they love your music, but also that one guy down the street got aggressive with you and asked you to move on, threatening to call the cops. This section is going to detail how to deal with these situations. Firstly, you got to remember that all this stuff is normal. Not everyone is going to enjoy your music, and try not to take it personally when stuff like this happens. Do not get deterred. Make sure you stand your ground if you're being disrespected, and remember, you have just as much of a right as anybody else to be on the street. Alright, part 1. How to create, maintain, and engage crowds. Once you start to generate crowds as a result of your performances, the adrenaline rush is going to be amazing. You're going to really feel your music and see it connecting with your crowd. It's really one of the best feelings in the world, but it can be extremely difficult to create this and to maintain this connection throughout a song, or even throughout a number of songs. In order to create the crowds, you will need to be engaging and energetic. Nobody is going to be interested in a lethargic, unenergized performer. And I do not mean that you can't play relaxing, calm, or sad, or otherwise slow music. Instead, what I mean is, if that's what you want to do, it should be done with passion. Put your heart into the music. Even if your music is somewhat slow, that passion and emotion will always carry it through and attract passerbys. As a rule of thumb, you should always look to engage with your passerbys via eye contact, smiles, and even small dances, depending on your level of confidence.
Very superstitious. What's the name? I don't know. Something. Thank you very much.
Usually I find it quite hard when I'm alone to do this, and I tend to lean heavily into the passionate performing. I mean, that's okay and it's forgivable, but when you're with a group, the dynamic should change. You can work off each other's energy to really start enjoying yourself, and then transmit that positivity to your audience. A good way to do this is to start asking the crowd to sing parts of your songs, especially if they are well-known songs. A good example might be the infamous chorus in Wonderwall. It could seem daunting to ask any stranger in the first place to do anything, and it can seem like you're going to get it thrown back in your face. But believe me when I say that most of the time, those people that are there standing and listening to your music, they're crying out for you to engage with them. The vast majority are there listening to you because they enjoy you, they enjoy your sound, and they enjoy your passion. Do not be afraid to let them in on the magic of your music and your performing. Engaging your audience goes beyond just crowd interactions. You don't need people to obligatorily clap along to every song to feel validated. It's important to read your crowd and choose your songs in line with this. Is there energy in the air? Are people drinking, laughing, and smiling? Then some upbeat music will lead and feed this energy. Are people calm, relaxed, and watching you with interest? Then maybe try some jazz or some emotional music to really engage them on a deeper level. You gotta read your crowd and act accordingly.
Shut up and sit down.
Look guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. Look, an unfortunate reality is that sooner or later you're gonna have to deal with hecklers on the street. You're gonna run into trouble, and this is gonna be drunk shouting at you, angry old men shouting at you to turn down, or people threatening that they're gonna call the cops on you. Look, in all of these cases, it's important to read the situation. 9 times out of 10, these drunks will be harmless and they're not going to physically engage you. You can comfort yourself in the fact that if you have a crowd, most of the time they're going to be very protective of you and shield you from hecklers. Nevertheless, all that being said, I have had some times where I was in definite danger of being attacked, and I had to take control of a situation fast. If people begin to stand too close to you and you feel threatened, do not be afraid to tell somebody to back off and to stand back. Many are too embarrassed to do this as they're afraid to appear rude or mean to their listeners, but at the end of the day, people are going to respect you that much more if you can show backbone and show that you can demand respect on the street. If you're getting threats from people regarding the calling of the cops, this will usually be in relation to your volume. Again, read the situation. Are you really that loud? If so, act accordingly and consider turning down or relocating. Many times, I have to admit, however, that these people are just looking to vent their problems to somebody and to ruin somebody's day, and unfortunately, you have become their emotional punching bag. Don't take it personally, but also don't be afraid to stand your ground. The question regarding volume in general is actually quite interesting. Me personally, I always err on the louder side, as I prefer to be able to hear all the nuance of my vocals to maintain proper vocal technique. Generally though, if you do get some complaints, you should turn down, or at least pretend to turn down. Otherwise, you're going to risk the cops being called, and while cops alone will rarely ask you to turn down, depending on your country, I'm speaking right now from my Irish and Luxembourgish perspective, if the cops, however, do get a complaint, they will shut you down without any questions. Again, try and use common sense when it comes to volume. Handling mistakes. Look guys, inevitably, no matter how good you are, there's going to be a time where you will make a mistake, your gear's going to fail, your guitar strap is going to snap, and your guitar is going to fall on the ground and make a stupid noise, or some other mishap's going to occur. Try and embrace this and laugh it off. Thankfully on the street, you're not expected to be professional, so the overall stakes are going to be quite low. Use that to your advantage, and try and adopt that attitude that things will go wrong and you're there to have fun and learn from it. Do not beat yourself up over any mistakes. Something that a lot of people underestimate and maybe fail to take stock of is the fact that people are going to start recording you on their phones when you're on the street. Many people will record you while you're performing, with only some asking for the permission, and if this bothers you, consider maybe making a sign to deter this. Otherwise, you should definitely capitalize on this by displaying your name and handles on a sign or something similar for free advertising. Interacting and talking with members of the public.
Welcome to Not Get Deterred. We're gonna do one last song. You know the words of the song. You gotta sing with me, okay? What time is it? Can somebody give me what time it is? This is an interview now. Where are you from?
I'm from Lebanon. The explosions.
Look guys, many members of the public are going to try and approach and speak with you, and some will be nicer than others. Always be polite, but do not be a pushover. Some of these people are going to have their own agenda, and they are going to try and lecture you on what you're doing. Know when to shut this down by saying that maybe you have to keep playing or some other excuse. Don't adopt a negative attitude with these interactions, and don't think that everybody that comes is there to ruin your day or to tell you what to do. Because a lot of people are genuinely nice and will be genuinely passionate about you and your music. Just learn to see those who may have bad intentions or may otherwise come across as a bit odd or unusual. Don't entertain them for too long. Keep it brief, polite, and professional. Alright guys, we're almost there. Last step, evolving your performance. The last thing we're going to touch on is evolving the performances. Due to being on the street, you're often going to be limited in what you can do by the gear you have. Even the best gear will usually be battery powered, as you will rarely have access to mains power on the street. As a result, usually the simplest of additions are the best. Consider investing in a battery powered loop pedal to add layers to your performance and to allow you to instrumentally express yourself through lead playing. You can also loop vocal lines to create various harmonies, although I have to say this requires a lot of practice. Further additions to your gear could be octave pedals to add low end to your guitar playing. Furthermore, an overdrive or a distortion pedal dialed in just slightly can really help an acoustic guitar to cut through a mix for some lead playing. Many people are going to really appreciate you utilizing different effects, and this is going to help further differentiate you from other buskers. Well guys, we got there in the end. Damn, I'm tired. I hope that wasn't too much information for you. To conclude, I hope that these tips helped you guys out. I mean, I tried to answer the questions that I wish that I got answered when I first went busking. If I could give any final pieces of advice, it's just to stop delaying and just to go and do it. For me, street performing really made me who I am today, helped my confidence, and I made so many friends and so many great contacts through street performing. Honestly, some of the best days of my life I have had through street performing. So guys, if I was to leave you with a closing thought, it's to just get up and go and do it. Please let me know what your experience has been in the comments, and if you like the video, please consider sharing it. My name is Ethan Carey. See you in the next vid.